Your GLP-1 medication could be interacting with your birth control right now, leading to something like unplanned pregnancies. And that constipation that you're ignoring, it can become a surgical emergency. And these are just 2 of 10 mistakes that I see landing patients in the ER. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what derails your GLP-1 results and what can put you in the hospital. We're gonna try to clarify here fact from fiction and all that BS that you're hearing people talk about on social media. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Dr. Jones, DC, and I lead the coaching department for our nationwide GLP-1 clinic, where I coach thousands of patients through these medications. And this passion of mine comes from my own 10-year weight loss journey, where now I'm able to maintain my health and my weight on a microdose of GLP-1 medications. And I get the pleasure of working with my medical practitioners, helping patients like you avoid the same mistakes that derail results or land them in the ER. And look, these aren't just inconveniences, and some of these mistakes have put patients in our practice in the emergency room. Others sabotaging results so badly that people give up on medications that could have changed their life. I'm breaking this all down so that you know exactly what to watch for, what to do instead, and when you need to get some help immediately. So here's how we're gonna break this down. I'm organizing these 10 mistakes into 3 categories. Category number 1, dangerous mistakes that risk your health. Category 2, dosing mistakes that sabotage your results. And then finally, 3, lifestyle mistakes that guarantee weight regain. And the thing is, most of these stem from one core problem: treating GLP-1s like magic pills instead of medical tools that require proper guidance. For each mistake, I'm gonna tell you what it is, why it ruins your results or puts you at risk, and what you can do instead, and finally, when you need to ask for help. Because here's the reality. Wegovy, Zepbound, Mounjaro, these medications work by managing insulin and appetite. They're incredibly powerful when used correctly. But if you make these mistakes, you're literally fighting against your own biology. And I wanna be clear about something up front. I'm not here to scare you off from these medications. I use them myself personally, and we coach thousands of patients on these meds every single day. But the difference between someone who gets life-changing results and someone who ends up in the hospital often comes down to knowing what not to do. So let's dive into the first category, the dangerous mistake that risks your health. Dangerous mistake number 1, not understanding the difference between legitimate compounded GLP-1s and dangerous unregulated products. And the FDA has made this incredibly confusing by lumping them all together. Mistake? Yeah, I think not. The FDA released a study saying that compounded GLP-1s have 2.35 times higher hospitalization odds, 19 times higher contamination rates, and 49 times higher preparation errors. They use this to scare everybody away from all compounding. But here's what they didn't tell you. Their study didn't distinguish, I'll leave that one alone, between legitimate licensed pharmacies and completely unregulated garbage. That's like studying restaurant food quality and at the same time combining Michelin-starred restaurants with gas station hot dogs, then declaring all restaurant food is dangerous. So let me make this really simple. There are 2 categories that you need to know when it comes to purchasing your compounded medications. Category number 1, licensed 503A and 503B compounding pharmacies. These facilities follow strict quality standards using FDA suppliers, requiring valid prescriptions, getting regular inspections, and they do batch testing. This is real pharmacy compounding with regulatory oversight. Category 2, unregulated product, research peptides, overseas suppliers, social media sellers, anything without legitimate prescriptions, no FDA oversight, no quality control, no sterility testing. This is where real danger lives. The FDA's study couldn't distinguish between these 2 categories that they lumped together. They said legitimate pharmacies with unregulated garbage and declared all compounding dangerous. But the reality is if you're using compounded GLP-1s for cost reasons, then you have a source, you have a safer option. Your pharmacy that you're getting it from, the doctors that are prescribing it to you, it should be coming from a 503A or 503B pharmacy, provide a certificate of analysis, and require valid prescriptions. If you can't verify those things, or if you're buying research peptides and ordering overseas, that's category 2. That's where people end up in the hospital with contaminated products or dangerously incorrect doses. One or the other here. The bottom line is this: legitimate licensed compounding isn't the problem. Unregulated products are. Know which category you're in. Dangerous mistake number 2, ignoring the new pre-surgery fasting guidelines if you're on GLP-1 meds. And this one is literally life-threatening, so pay attention to this. We're talking about aspiration pneumonia, emergency room intubation. And here's what happened. A study looked at 316 patients on GLP-1 meds who were scheduled for elective procedures. They allowed standard pre-surgery fasting, nothing to eat after midnight, clear liquids up to a few hours before surgery. That's been the proven protocol forever. But when they scoped these patients right before anesthesia, 56% of them still had dangerous amounts of gastric content in their stomachs. Over half, despite following the standard fasting rules. You have to understand, GLP-1 meds slow the movement, right? They slow down gastric emptying. That's part of how they work. They keep food in your stomach for longer so you feel full for longer. But when you're going under anesthesia, if you have food or liquid in your stomach, you can aspirate it into your lungs, and that aspiration pneumonia, it can end your life. It could literally kill you. So in October 2024, the American Society of Anesthesiologists, the American Gastroenterological Association, and others released updated guidance. So if you're on GLP-1 medications, you now need a 24-hour clear liquid diet before any elective procedures requiring anesthesia. Not just overnight fasting, 24 hours. By the way, have you had your surgery scheduled while on GLP-1 medications? Did your doctor know about the new 24-hour fasting guidelines? Drop a comment below. I want to know how many of your providers are actually following the new guidance protocols. And here's the scary part. I had a patient last year who didn't tell her surgeon that she was on Mounjaro. She was having an elective procedure, followed the standard overnight fasting, and she went under anesthesia. And she ended up aspirating her stomach contents into her lungs. She spent 3 days in the ICU with aspiration pneumonia. Completely preventable if anyone had known she was on the medication. So what do? Number one, inform every medical provider that you're on GLP-1 medications. Your surgeon, your anesthesiologist, your dentist, if you're getting sedation, everybody needs to know this. Number two, if you have any procedure requiring anesthesia or sedation coming up, follow that 24-hour clear liquid protocol. And number three, don't schedule elective procedures without talking to your prescribing doctor about whether you should adjust your dosing timing around the surgery. This is one of those mistakes where I didn't know can have catastrophic consequences. Now you know, tell your doctors, follow the new guidelines, and don't gamble with aspiration risk. Dangerous mistake number three, ignoring severe constipation symptoms. And I need you to understand that the difference between annoying constipation and call 911 right now constipation. That's right. Look, some level of constipation is common on these medications. GLP-1s slow gastric emptying. That's how they work. Slower digestion, fuller feeling, better appetite control. But that also means slower transit time through your entire digestive system. Most people deal with mild constipation, and it's going to respond to hydration, fiber, and movement. That's manageable. But here's where it becomes dangerous. Some studies show that increased intestinal obstruction, like a block in your GI tract, risk with GLP-1s, particularly after prolonged use. We're not talking about being a little backed up here. We're talking about your intestines physically being blocked, which is a surgical emergency. And while the research is mixed on how common this is, case reports show that it does happen and it requires immediate medical intervention. Look, if what we've covered so far, the compounding dangers, the surgery risks, the bowel obstruction concerns, is making you realize that you need proper medical oversight for this journey, I want you to know that we offer free discovery calls where you can meet with our experts who can assess your specific situation and create a safe, personalized protocol and give you a better idea how I personally can help. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to explore that. But first, let me show you the emergency signs that you absolutely cannot ignore. Here are the red flags that mean stop what you're doing and get emergency care immediately. Number one, you haven't had a bowel movement in over a week and you can't pass gas. Number two, severe abdominal pain that's getting worse, especially if it's coming in waves. And number three, your abdominal cavity, your stomach, your belly, it's distended, rock hard, or visibly swollen. Number four, you're vomiting repeatedly and you can't keep anything down. Any one of those symptoms, you need to seek medical attention immediately. Not tomorrow, not after you try some Miralax, not after you freaking Google or use your AI tools. If you're using AI tools now, call your doctor or go to the urgent care immediately. Bowel obstruction doesn't care if you're trying to lose weight. It's a medical emergency that requires intervention. Now, for prevention, the standard approach is stay aggressively hydrated, 2 to 3 liters of water a day, get adequate fiber, move your body regularly. But here's something interesting that I've seen work in our practice. For some people, fiber actually makes the constipation worse. I've had patients who've done everything right, tons of fiber, lots of water, and she was miserable with constipation. We switched her approach to pairing fiber with healthy fats, guacamole with her bell peppers, avocados with meals, fat and fiber together, and within 48 hours, her constipation resolved. The key is fiber needs fat and hydration to move through properly. And here's the paradox. Some patients find that removing fiber entirely, say a carnivore diet, for example, actually solves their constipation. GLP-1s, right? And off too as well. Sounds backwards, but I've seen it work. And I personally started experimenting with this carnivore diet myself and made a massive difference for me and just my satiety rating. So you need to work with a clinic that understands these different dietary interventions to find what's going to work good for you. For certain people, especially with those pre-existing gut issues, removing plant fiber and going full carnivore can completely resolve digestive problems. So the solution isn't a one-size-fits-all. For most people, hydration and fiber, healthy fats, and movement. But if that's not working, Talk to your provider about either optimizing your fiber plus fat approach or potentially trying a carnivore elimination diet to see if removing fibers help. The point is, address constipation proactively before it becomes an emergency. All right, now let's talk about dosing and lifestyle mistakes. And mistake number 4 is the one that ruins people's results even when they think that they're succeeding: neglecting protein intake and resistance training while losing weight on GLP-1s. Let me tell you about Jessica, 43-year-old mom, started on Mounjaro. She dropped 35 pounds over 8 months. She was posting before and after photos, getting compliments at her kids' school events. She felt like she'd finally figured it out. And then she got a DEXA scan, that's the gold standard for measuring body composition. 15 pounds of that weight loss was pure muscle. Her metabolism had dropped by about 750 calories per day. That's like losing an entire workout's worth of calories burned while sitting on the couch. She was exhausted all the time, couldn't keep up with her kids. And here's the worst part. Her body was now primed to regain every pound the moment she stopped the medication. Why does this happen? You see, GLP-1 medications don't differentiate between fat loss or muscle loss. Your body will burn whatever's available when you're in a caloric deficit. Studies show 10 to 15% muscle loss is common during GLP-1s. But the thing is, that's without proper intervention. And the muscle loss isn't about strength. It's about your metabolic rate, your bone density, your long-term health status. This is also what causes Ozempic face. Rapid weight loss without muscle preservation leads to volume loss on your face, making you look gaunt and aged. It's not the medication doing it directly, it's the muscle wasting that's happening when you don't protect your lean tissue. So here's what we did with Jessica. We completely flipped our approach. We added 150 grams of protein per day. And yes, I know that sounds impossible when you have no appetite, but you can do it with strategic meal timing and protein-dense foods. Plus, we're not gonna keep you on a high dose so that you actually have an appetite. She started resistance training just 3 times a week, nothing crazy, compound movements, progressive overload. Quick question for you, what's your biggest challenge with getting enough protein on GLP-1s? Is it the lack of appetite, not knowing what to eat, or something else? Let's drop it in the comments here because you might be able to help somebody and learn a thing or two from other people's comments. 6 months later, she gained 8 pounds of muscle back and she lost 10 more pounds of fat. She's stronger now at 43 than she was at 35. That's the difference between losing weight and actually getting healthy. Here's what you need to know. Shoot for about 1 gram per pound of target body weight. So if you're trying to weigh 150 pounds, you need to be getting about 150 grams of protein. Use protein shakes if you have to. Eat protein at every single meal. Don't skimp out on this and get your butt to the gym. Resistance training 3 times per week. You need to be lifting weights, doing body weight exercises, creating mechanical tensions on your muscles, and the basic machines at the gym can be very effective. Cardio doesn't preserve muscle. Walking is great for health, but it won't stop muscle loss. You need resistance training. Don't make the mistake of thinking that the medication alone is a solution. GLP-1s control your appetite. That's the tool. But if you use the tool to accidentally starve your muscles, you're building a body that will fail you 5 years from now. Okay. Mistake number 5 is the one that happens with the best intentions, and it's terrifying because it's often your doctor making it. Let me tell you about the dangers of rushing your dose escalation. I'll tell you about Sarah. She's a 42-year-old nurse, PCOS patient struggling with plateaus. She started on semaglutide, lost 20 pounds, then she stalled completely. Her previous doctor's solution, just keep cranking the dose. You guys know the drill. Before you knew it, she was on the max dose, 2.4 milligrams, just kept escalating every couple weeks until she hit the top. And within 3 weeks at that top dose, she was vomiting after every meal, brain fog so bad she almost crashed her freaking car driving to work. She lost 15 pounds in just a couple weeks. Sounds great, but she was severely dehydrated, lost electrolytes. She ended up in urgent care because her body couldn't function. I remember the medical practitioners had that conversation with her, and I'll never forget this. She said to them, "I thought this medication was supposed to make my life better, but I felt like I was freaking dying." And that's not hyperbole there. She was in a crisis because someone pushed the dose too aggressively. Turns out she was with a telehead clinic. She wasn't really getting any guidance at all. She was just following the protocol. The FDA's adverse event database shows that incorrect dosing, particularly with compounded products, remains a significant problem. We see healthcare providers prescribing 2 to 4 times the recommended starting dose, and patients end up in hospitals because their bodies can't tolerate the aggressive escalation. So what did my practitioners do with Sarah? They did a reset. They got her down to 0.8 and about 1/3 of what her previous doctors had her on. And guess what? She lost another 15 pounds in 6 weeks, more than she did on the maximum dose. Why? Because her body could actually function. She could eat protein, she can stay hydrated, she could go to the gym, she was able to sleep. This is what I tell every single patient. More medication isn't necessarily gonna mean more results. The lowest dose that controls your appetite is the winning dose. Your goal isn't to suppress your appetite completely, it's to have enough control to make good choices without the medication doing all the work. So here's what you need to know about dosing. Follow the 4-week titration schedule that's recommended. Don't let anybody push you faster than that, and really ask yourself at week 4, do I need to increase? What does my control look like? And if you miss a dose, this is important. If it's been more than 5 days, just resume your current dose. Don't try to double up or catch up. That's how you end up with severe side effects. If this dosing mistake revelation is making you realize how much you don't know about using these medications safely, hit that subscribe button right now, because we put out 2 videos per week breaking down exactly how to use GLP-1s the right way, the mistakes to avoid, and the protocols that actually work, with the science backing behind it with lifestyle interventions. Because what we're about to cover next, the mistakes that people keep making when stopping these medications, is where most people fail. So hit that subscribe button right now, because it also helps out the channel. Mistake number 6, stopping your GLP-1 meds without having fixed the underlying insulin resistance that caused your weight gain in the first place. And this is the mistake that costs most people everything that they worked for. So here's what the research shows. When people stop GLP-1 meds, the majority will regain most or all of their weight loss within a single year. The studies are sovereign. We're talking about 2/3 of the weight coming back within a year. And yes, gradual tapering over time, say like 9 weeks, is better than stopping cold turkey. But here's what most doctors don't tell you. The tapering alone isn't the solution completely. And in our practice, we see this all the time. 8 out of 10 patients who stop their medications without fixing underlying issues, insulin resistance and inflammation, they regained most of their weight, if not all. And that's what the studies show. The other 2 out of 10 who maintain without metabolic work, I call that dumb luck. But those aren't the odds that I like for my patients. What do you guys think? If you're dealing with weight regain after stopping GLP-1s, or you're worried about what happens when you eventually come off these medications, you don't have to figure this out alone. You can actually book a discovery call with our experts to get some personalized guidance about fixing your insulin resistance while losing your weight. I'll leave a link in the description where you can book that call. Now, let's talk about what to do while you're on this journey so you never have to face this nightmare again. Think about it this way. If you have a broken pipe flooding your basement, you can keep mopping up the water. GLP-1s are incredibly effective mops, but if you've never fixed the pipe, which is your insulin resistance, of course the basement floods again, over and over and over. When you stop the mopping, that's what's happening when people regain weight after stopping these meds. So why does this happen metabolically speaking? When you're insulin resistant, insulin stays elevated the majority of the day. Constant fat storage mode, constant hunger, constant energy crashes. GLP-1s suppress that appetite temporarily, but if you haven't fixed the underlying insulin patterns, stopping the medication triggers rebound hunger that's actually many times stronger than it was before, because there's a relative difference. You've been suppressed for so long. Your brain goes into overdrive trying to restore what it perceives as deprivation. So what's your actual solution? You need to fix your insulin resistance while you're losing weight on the medication. That means implementing strategic fasting, say 16-8, working into longer therapeutic fasts under medical supervision. That means resistance training 3 times a week. This is non-negotiable. That means lowering your carbohydrate intake and improving your sleep and stress management. When you do this work, and it typically takes 6 to 9 months, your insulin patterns completely change. Instead of being elevated all day, it only spikes briefly after meals and it returns to baseline. That's normal insulin function. And when this happens, you can reduce your medication dose, taper strategically, and even maintain on a microdose, or possibly even come off entirely without the weight coming back. That's up to you and how hard you want to work, but we're going to help you to any capacity that you're motivated to do. But if you haven't done that metabolic healing work, even a perfect 9-week taper isn't gonna save you. I'm sorry to tell you. You'll regain that weight because the underlying dysfunction is still there. So the question isn't just, how do I taper off? The question is, have I fixed the problems that made me need this medication in the first place? And if the answer is no, you're not ready to reduce your dose. If the answer is yes, your fasting insulins have normalized, you can do longer fasts without dying, your energy is stable, then strategic reduction becomes possible. Mistake number 7, ignoring mental health challenges while you're on GLP-1 meds. And I want to be clear up front, this is rare. Clinical trials show less than 1% of patients experience suicidal ideation, but it's real. And the scary part is you might not notice when it's happening to you. So let me tell you about Lisa, 48-year-old business owner, high-performing, sharp as a tack, running a successful company. 3 months into tirzepatide at 10 milligrams, she started noticing something was off. First, it was just brain fog. I'm probably just tired, she thought. Nothing major. Then she stopped laughing, stopped returning calls, spent entire Sundays on the couch. She called it zombie mode, going through motions, but she wasn't really present. One morning, she couldn't remember if she sent an important client email. She checked, she sent it, but the fact that she couldn't remember scared the hell out of her. And she finally called our clinic. She said, I don't realize how checked out I've been until I looked back at this last month, and it's been pretty wild and a little bit scary. So my docs did a reset, pulled her down to a lower dose, 2.5 milligrams, and within a couple weeks, it was like the light switch flipped back on. She was present again, laughing again, engaging with their business and their family. Now, the research on this is complicated. The STEP trials found very low rates of mental health effects in controlled settings, but what we notice in our clinics is this happens. And I think it has something to do with the dopamine pathways in the brain. I mean, there's a lot of research that still needs to be done. Eating disorder specialists are reporting patients developing what looks like anorexia nervosa, complete loss of interest in food that goes beyond normal appetite suppression. So here's what you need to watch for. Mood changes that persist, not just a bad day, but weeks of feeling flat or emotionally numb. Changes in your relationship with food that go beyond I'm not as hungry to I have no interest in eating at all. Brain fog that affects your work or safety, withdrawal from activities or people that you normally enjoy. Any thoughts of self-harm, obviously. The challenge is that you might not notice these in yourself, and that's why you need people around you, partners, family, friends, your medical team who can observe you and ask questions. You seem different lately. How are you feeling? Those check-ins matter. And if you or someone close to you notices these patterns, don't just push through it. Talk to your provider about adjusting your dose or taking a break from the medication. Your mental health isn't negotiable. Weight loss isn't worth losing yourself in the progress. Mistake number 8, ignoring drug interactions, especially with birth control. And this one has resulted in unplanned pregnancies for patients in our practice who thought that they were being careful. Here's what you need to know. GLP-1 medications, particularly tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro and Zepbound, they slow gastric emptying. That's part of how they work. We talked about that already, but that means oral medications that need to be absorbed through your stomach and intestines, they can be impacted. And one of the biggest concerns is oral contraceptives. The data on tirzepatide shows that it reduces oral contraceptive exposure by 20%. That's enough to potentially cause contraceptive failure. The manufacturer literally recommends using barrier contraception, condoms, diaphragms, for 4 weeks after you start tirzepatide and for 4 weeks after any dose increase. We've had several patients in our practice get pregnant while on oral birth control and tirzepatide. They were taking their pills perfectly, they didn't know the medication was reducing the effectiveness, and that's not a risk you want to mess with. That's the entire life you just generated. But it's not just birth control. Other time-sensitive medications can get impacted too. Thyroid medications, diabetes, blood pressure, anything that needs consistent absorption and timing. If you're taking multiple medications, you need to review them with your provider, specifically in the context of being on GLP-1s. So what do? Number 1, tell your provider about every medication and every supplement that you're taking. Number 2, if you're on an oral birth control and starting tirzepatide, use a backup method for at least 4 weeks after starting and after every dose increase. Number 3, monitor the effectiveness of your other medications. If your thyroid symptoms come back, if your blood sugar control changes, if your blood pressure fluctuates, that can be an absorption issue. Don't assume that your pharmacist or your doctor automatically thought these interactions through. The GLP-1 boom happened fast, and not everyone is up to speed on all these potential drug interactions. You need to advocate for yourself and ask these important questions. Mistake number 9 is the paradox that drives me crazy because patients do it with the best intentions, and it completely destroys their metabolism. So let me show you how eating too little actually prevents fat loss. I had a patient, Maria, who made this mistake. The medication crushed her appetite so effectively that she was eating 800, 900 calories a day. And she thought, great, more deficit means more weight loss, right? Wrong. After 3 months, she plateaued completely. The scale didn't move for weeks, but here's what really concerned me. She was freezing cold all the time, losing her hair in the shower, exhausted by 2 p.m. These are classic signs of metabolic shutdown. Her body had gone into what I call battery saving mode, aka zombie mode. You see, when your body detects prolonged severe calorie restriction day in, day out, it doesn't just accept the deficit and keep burning fat. It adapts. It slows your metabolism down in an attempt to keep you alive. So much that 800 calories becomes your new maintenance. For example, she accidentally starved herself into this exact metabolic problem that made weight loss impossible. This is why I created the Flow protocol designed to prevent this issue. When you do strategic therapeutic long fasting 1 time per week and you counter that with high eating windows I call feasting periods, you trick your body into preventing the starvation mode from actually happening. But when you chronically undereat every single day for months, your body interprets that as a famine and it shuts things down as much as it can to survive. So what did we do with Maria? We did something that terrified her. We increased our calories, took her from 900 to 1950 calories, over a 3 to 6 week reset. She was convinced she would gain weight instead. Her energy came back, her hair stopped falling out, and she started losing weight again, 20 pounds over the next 2 months after the reset. Her body finally trusted that food was available and we don't have to crank things down. So here's what you need to understand. GLP-1s suppress appetite. That's the tool. They'll let you accidentally starve yourself without even feeling hungry. That's not a feature. That's a bug that you have to actively manage. Your body still needs adequate protein for muscle maintenance, adequate calories for organs to function, adequate nutrients for workout recovery. Real talk here, are you eating enough on your GLP-1 medications, or has the appetite suppression made you accidentally undereat? Do me a favor, drop it in the comments. How many calories do you think you're eating per week, or have you not counted, but you just kind of go, I know I'm under eating, but no one's ever asked me. Even when you're not hungry, you need to eat. Target your protein first, 25 to 45 grams of proteins per meal. Eat frequent meals that are nutrient dense in your eating windows. Time your eating windows around your workout so that you have fuel for training. Don't let the medication trick you into thinking that you can live on nothing. If you're experiencing hair loss, constant fatigue, feeling cold all the time, brain fog, or even plateaued while eating very low calories, these are the red flags that you're under eating. Your body is screaming at you to increase your intake before you do serious metabolic damage. And this brings us to mistake number 10, the big one that enables all other mistakes: using GLP-1 medications without proper medical supervision, guidance, coaching, and structure. And I need to show you what's actually happening out there. A study analyzing social media content about GLP-1 medications found that only 31% of the content was created by healthcare professionals. The rest, influencers, people selling courses, random internet advice, and the quality scores across platforms were very poor, to say the least, meaning people are getting dangerous misinformation from sources that have no accountability. We have patients that start with us after trying to do this on their own, and I get it and respect that, but they're ordering from overseas suppliers, they're following TikTok dosing advice, they're adjusting medications based on Reddit threads. And look, I get it. Traditional medical systems have made this hard. Insurance doesn't cover it. Doctors don't have the time. Costs are insane. So people are out there trying to figure it out themselves. Without proper supervision and even knowing what that looks like, there's no chance you're going to be successful. Very little. But here's what proper supervision actually looks like and why it matters. It means regular monitoring, not just how's your weight, but tracking your labs, checking your fasting insulin and C-peptide, monitoring your side effects, adjusting doses based on individual response. It means someone is asking you about your energy levels, your hair loss, your bowel movements, your mental state. It means having a plan for what actually happens when you plateau, when you get side effects, and when life stressors hit. And in our practice, we see the difference every single day between patients who have proper support and those who don't. The supervised patients know when to adjust their dose, know when to implement strategic fastings, know when to push harder, but know when to back off because stress is too high. Those do-it-yourself patients are completely guessing, hoping, and often making it worse. I'm not saying this because I want to sell you something. I'm saying this because I have coached thousands of patients through these medications, and the ones who succeeded long-term have real support systems. That might be our team, it might be another qualified provider, but it's someone who understands metabolic health and not just weight loss. So here's what to look for in quality medical supervision. They should be checking your labs. In my opinion, fasting insulin, C-peptide to see how insulin resistant you are, inflammation markers like C-reactive protein, ESR, thyroid panels. They should be adjusting your protocol based on your individual response, not just following cookie cutter approaches. They should be addressing lifestyle factors, fasting, low carb eating, resistance training, sleep optimization, stress management, not just handing you a prescription. They should have a plan for how you could potentially reduce your medication in the future by fixing your metabolism. If your current provider is just writing prescriptions and saying eat less and move more, that's not adequate supervision for these powerful medications. You deserve better than that. Okay, so we've covered 10 mistakes, but if you only remember 3 things, make it these. Number 1, verify your medication sources, legitimate 503A or B pharmacies only, never unregulated sources. Number 2, follow the 24-hour clear liquid protocol before any surgery. Tell every provider that you're on a GLP-1. And then number 3, get proper medical supervision, not just prescriptions, but real monitoring and metabolic healing support. The medication is a powerful tool, but the tools need skilled hands, and that's where proper guidance makes all the difference. Look, I know this is a lot, and the truth is, these medications require more knowledge and support than most people offer, and quite frankly, most even realize. And if you're dealing with plateaus, concerning side effects, or you just don't know how to figure this out on your own, you can book a free discovery call with our experts. We'll review your specific situation, look at your labs, create a personalized protocol that actually addresses your metabolism, and they're gonna speak to you about what I can do and my coaches can do, whatever capacity you want. I have multiple different coaching levels. My promise to you, if you decide to work with us, is I'm gonna help you achieve lasting weight loss and help you reduce that medication dose with my medical team's help so that you can maintain your weight loss on a microdose. That's all we do every single day. And if you guys enjoyed this video, you should definitely check this one out there. This is a video where we go into maintenance dosing, what it looks like to actually achieve microdosing maintenance. We'll see you guys later.